Thank you. Thanks for that nice welcome. As you can tell, it's a brand new screening room. I was watching the last part of the movie, and it's like, what a clear picture. Unbelievable. It's just beautiful to watch. Yeah.
I was just thinking that since you're off duty now, you're Mr. Fantastic. And to begin, this seems like a perfect match of role and you. But the question is, how did you get involved with this project in the first place?
Well, Matt Ross wrote, as he has told me and others, he did not write the role thinking of anybody in particular just because that's a fool's errand in a way. You know, you never know what schedules are and if someone's going to be available or if they're going to want to do it. And sorry, I'm just going to put this down here before I do something. So he wrote it, but then once he'd finished it, he did want to go to me first, which was I was very flattered, and so I got this script with that title, and I wondered what the title meant. I had no idea what I was going to be reading. You know, I hadn't seen a breakdown. I just read the script, and I realized right away that it wasn't a comic book type story. And then I wondered what century it was happening in the first couple minutes, or a couple pages, and then I realized, oh, they speak English. We're in the United States. It's not the Middle Ages, and then I thought, so I kept being surprised in little and big ways all throughout. About 10, 15 pages, and I thought, okay, so this is a left-wing family model alternative, and they're going to come up against conservative obstacles. That's going to be the story. And it wasn't the story. It was much more complex than that. So I read it, liked it a lot. I met Matt, and we talked for several hours, and as it happened, when he wanted to go, which was as soon as possible, I couldn't. I had, as I'm doing now and have been doing since January for this movie, at that time there were two movies I had done that had not made them at the same time, but they just happened to come out at the same time, and I said, I have months to go, and they're both independent movies like yours, and if you don't promote them, they don't have a chance. And even then, they don't always get to movie theaters. But you got to try, and you got to really work hard at promoting them, probably more than the big movies or studio movies. So I said, I can't. I'm not available. In fairness to them, I have to. They said, okay, I'm going to try to do it otherwise with someone else, and I said, well, I hope you do because it's a really great story. And I did say, good luck finding 6 genius kids, because if you don't, it'll be a good movie, but it can't be as great as the script. And so that was the end of the conversation. It was a long, really great conversation. Several hours we talked. And then 7 months later, or something like that, 8 months later, he said, we almost got it done, but the actor in the end decided he didn't want to do it for some reason. And I'm coming back to you. And I said, well, thank you. And if you're free now, and I said, I am, let's do it. You don't read a script this good very often, and you don't find a role that's this complex and has such a challenging emotional journey, very often. So I didn't want to pass it up.
And then how long was the production of this film?
From when I said yes, that would have been the autumn, and then we shot the next summer, early summer. We shot through the summer because we had to wait for kids' school and all that, and it would look right for the story as well. The 2 finalists for each of the 6 kids' roles, I read with them, which was great. It was great for me because I got to sort of see what it would feel like speaking that dialogue and seeing what kind of kids, what they would be like.
The older ones?
Yeah, all of them. No, all 6.
Oh, okay.
2 for each, the 2 finalists in each. And I was impressed by, I'm sure it was good for Matt too, because you could get a feel for what I might come up with and how the dynamic would work or not. And I have to say that both of the kids for each role were fantastic. They were really great. And I saw some tapes of other ones, and they were all so good. I couldn't believe I can't believe how many talented young actors there are. It's just mind-blowing. I couldn't imagine at their age even attempting what they were doing. And I was really impressed by his throughout, but right there in the beginning of getting to know Matt and see him work with actors and work with me, at how gentle and how perceptive, intelligent, and just decent he was with them. The ones that didn't get the role felt really good anyway, because of the way he spoke to them. He gave them plenty of chances to do it. He didn't dismiss them, and he let them know right away when it wasn't going to happen. Not an easy call to make, and a lot of directors cop out on that, I have to say. And you just never hear, and you're like, oh, I guess I didn't get it. Or you read in the trades, oh, so-and-so's doing it. Okay, good. Nice to know. But that's what more often than not happens.
Maybe because he's an actor and knows what that feels
I
like?
think so. I think that has a lot to do with it. And his gift with the actors and being able to work with them and adapt to what they were giving him and use it in line with what he was attempting. But that also depends what kind of actor. I mean, just because you're an actor doesn't mean you're going to be helpful to actors. As a director, I have to say it depends what kind. I mean, Matt's obviously the kind of actor who prepares assiduously and then shows up and let's see what other people do. What do I react to? Whereas there are actors, and some very fine ones, who prepare everything on their own, and they come in and they're pretty inflexible about, from gesture to gesture, emotional moments, and they're just great craftsmen. And they expect others to adapt to them, which is fine. It's not as much fun when you work with them, but sometimes it's their skill is just astounding sometimes, and you wish you could do what they do, but it's a different way of working, and someone like that might not be as helpful to an actor directing because they're not used to being very interested in what the other actors are doing, I'm afraid. Same with working with kids. It was really helpful because kids are going to surprise you. All actors are going to surprise you if you keep your eyes open, but kids, especially young ones, will often not only do something that wasn't in the script, but a gesture or just an inflection, just that can throw you if you really are kind of rigid about your preparation and what you plan to do. But I like it. I mean, I like what other people give me. I try to do everything, to an obsessive degree, do everything I can to learn about the person's life, everything that happens from birth to page one.
Well, this does bring me to what did you do to prepare? What did you do to become this guy?
I did that to start with, like I always do, and hopefully I get better and more efficient at it because you don't have the rest of your life.
Did that what? Did you?
Where was he born? Who was he raised by? Did he have girlfriends? What was his life like? Did he get the measles? I mean, the most mundane things. You just start.
Do you write that down? Do you just
make I write notes, and sometimes it gives you an idea. Sometimes some of that information's in the script or some, either flashbacks or references to the past. There's some allusions, but not very many, to Ben and his wife, and but where did they come from? What did he do? All those things to know. But then it's not that I throw it away, but I just put it to one side, and I know it's there, and then let's see what other people do. And with kids, you kind of have to do that, because if you don't, you're going to be behind all the time.
I've talked to some actors who say it begins with the hair, or it begins with the shoes they're wearing. Was there anything about your character that you either brought to it?
It couldn't begin with the shoes very well.
Well, the hair, the beard,
no, I don't.
And what about that red suit?
I love all those external things, but it doesn't have to be one thing or another. There's this idea that there are. And it could be the same thing where I say people will prepare everything and they're not flexible, and then it's not either or. There are, of course, degrees of, types. There's as many kinds of actors as there are actors, obviously. But, and I'm not one of those people who think, well, they are interior actors or they are exterior. I don't differentiate. I think people are a mixture. And it depends on the role. It depends what background you have, how many things you already know or have similar experiences to the character or whatever. But when I start gathering all this information, in the case of this story, there were some clothes and there were a lot of books and things I shared with Matt. And
you brought some books to the set, did you not?
Yeah,
what did you bring for the kids?
Hundreds of books. I mean, a lot of the books that are in the bus and the teepee are books I brought. I did some gardening for them. I prepared the garden.
And
I
then
mean,
you-
things that, in this case, it was a lot of things, but sometimes it's not. But I always bring things, and then they're for me, essentially, just to feel relaxed, like I've done everything I could, so I'm not nervous, really. And so that I can then just say, okay, what are you guys doing? Let's see what happens here. Because I already know I have this filed away, not just physical, not just objects, but ideas, notes, as you say. Um,
And was there rehearsal built in?
yeah, there was,
A lot.
fortunately. I
Yep.
mean, first we got that head start with the casting process, and then fortunately Matt was allowed to bring us a couple of weeks beforehand to that area. During that time, we're finishing up the camp as far as they were building, and I stayed out there and helped with the garden. It just got, because I knew we only had a week to shoot, and it was important, just as important to me as it was to Matt, that it be authentic, that you believe it's not a movie version of living in the woods, but you look at this place and go, yeah, they can do this. They know how to do it. There's a food source, water source, the sanitation, all these things, whether you see them or not. It's like those things you prepare as an actor, that you know them, they're there, and they help you feel, believe, and make believe. And even if they're not mentioned or seen, there's a lot of that in that, what we shot that first week. And during those couple of weeks beforehand, all day long, every day, we'd be together doing. And it was necessary so that we could seem like it was an everyday occurrence for us to go practice martial arts or meditate or rock climb, play music. All those group activities, camping out. We did lots of things together, and as a result, probably the most important thing that happened was that we got to know each other and like each other, and by the first day of shoot, I mean, it was a luxury, really, that we had to have all these skills in order. Otherwise, I don't know if a producer of an independent movie would say, yeah, you're going to have 2 weeks there, and we'll put you, the kids up and the parents up in hotels. And I don't know if they would have, but obviously we needed to do these collective. Right?
And the little ones were young. They're
7 and 8, and Charlie, the littlest one, had never done a movie. And he came up with just genius things that where did that come from? Doesn't matter. We got to go with that. Mostly always right on the nose.
now there's a great photograph of you from Cannes, you and the kids, all giving the finger
On the red carpet.
Did you instigate that?
I did, but it wasn't. They were right with me. I mean, it wasn't like we planned it.
It's a wonderful picture, the
Yeah.
little kids.
Yeah, they were really. And Charlie was like walking up the carpet. I remember next to me, all these photographers, and he goes, "I love this red carpet. It is really red." And I go, "Yeah, it is." He goes, "This is great. I'm coming back next year." And I said, "You might not. You got to be invited." And there are many great actors and directors that never go to Cannes. Certainly up this main red carpet. He goes, "Nah, I like it though. I'm definitely coming back." And then we went in, and then I have to say, I mean, I had been there before, and I was a little nervous. You never know. At Sundance, it had been such a wonderful thing, and all the kids were there, and we got really a lot of good attention for the movie, and everybody was marveling at this ensemble, not just the kids, but Catherine Hahn, Steve Zahn, and Dowd Frank Langella. I mean, everybody is so. Trin Miller, the mom. You don't see her very much, but she has a great presence, and she's really, really fine actress. It was just like, I knew that it was unusual that you get such a great piece of casting. Jeannie McCarthy, she should win an award, I think, for a story where every role, it just fits, it's right, and they're all well played, well directed. I mean, it doesn't happen very often, and we had this great start at Sundance because of that. It was just really warm reaction. But Cannes is like, that's quite different.
Well, you were there with David Cronenberg's films.
I had been there, yeah. And we were also, and Matt hadn't been there before, the director, Matt Ross, said, "So what do you think?" And I said, we're showing it at 10:30, which will probably be 11 by the time they get around to starting the movie. Critics will have seen 4 movies already today, and I don't know, I hope it's a different audience, international audience, and but it was it was great. It was as good as Sundance, and maybe even more.
Well, the carpet was really red, so.
Yes, it was very red. But then Charlie at the end, as they're clapping, he goes, "They're still clapping." I go, "Yeah, enjoy it, enjoy it." He goes, "This, I'm definitely coming back," and I'm like. Once again,
An actor is born.
you may get invited. If knowing Charlie, he will be several times. But even if you do come back, it's very rare that someone stands and claps for many minutes, you know, like this. So he goes, "Well, I think it's great." And I said, "It is great. I'll stop qualifying it. Just let's enjoy it." You're right,
So
Charlie.
do you know from the start when you have a project that's special? You've done a whole range of films. You've done small, you've done big. Do you know when you have something, or conversely, do you know when you have something, okay, it's interesting?
I don't have many like that for the simple reason that I try to satisfy myself in the sense that the stories I do are without thinking about genre, budget, nationality, language. It's would I want to see this in the movie theater?
Mm.
So I would say that the blueprints, by and large, I mean, in the first years of my career, yes, I think any experience, you know, I did all kinds of different things in theater and, you know, small parts in movies, playing extra, TV stuff, just get experience, it's important. And I'm not saying be like uppity and choosy, but my goal was to learn as much as I could and make a living, which took me several years before I could even really do that, pay the rent.
What did you do to supplement?
You know, the usual bartending, moving furniture, sold ice cream even. I mean, I don't know, all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually I started making a living. But then once I could have any choice whatsoever, then I started looking for what would I want to see. At first, it was anything. It's like, what's it like to play a part? What's it like to be directed? How's the camera? You know, how's it all work? What's it like to play together on film? How do you get past that adrenaline, the nerves of stepping out on a stage, or you know, for a play or camera? You know, you can learn as much as you want theoretically and practice in class, but doing it in front of an audience or doing it in front of a crew with a camera, it's just, for most people, you have to go through. It's like the fire of, oh man, it was going so well when I was doing it at home, you know. And it takes a while. It takes a while. And for me, I'm kind of a slow learner, I think. I mean, once I learn something, I don't forget it. But
slow learner in developing the character, slow learner in getting a sense of how you want to play.
Trusting myself and understanding, really learning my lessons about certain aspects of preparing roles and even audition. I don't know that I ever got to be a great auditioner because I was always exploring some, even as I was doing an audition, instead of sticking to my plan, I was like, oh, that's different. Oh, I'm a green table. And, you know, and they probably thought I was really all over the place, which I'm sure I was. Consequently, I did hundreds and hundreds of auditions and many, many, many dozens of screen tests. But as frustrating as it was to not get jobs, I was learning all the time. You know, that was my apprenticeship, like on the job. And then the first few jobs, fortunately, they weren't leading roles, or my career would have probably been over with quickly. I got to learn, make mistakes in front of the camera without an obligation of being the focus, you know. And
because then it becomes interesting, because in the midst of this great range, you're in this, you know, the blockbuster franchise, which is Lord of the Rings, which is entirely unlike anything that you would have experienced before. Was it, it sounds funny, was it a plus? Was it unnerving? Was it nothing but good? I mean, how do you make sense of
it? Was a great experience, I would say, in all its parts and overall. Like everybody, there were times where I got tired, and you know, it was just a long process, but it was an incredible university of filmmaking, you know, I guess, in every aspect. And along with the largely New Zealand crew, they did, at that point, there had been movies made in New Zealand, obviously, but they'd never made anything on this scale.
No.
And so there was a huge crew. It was like 700 people all told, all the units shooting, and most of them were learning how to do it on that job. And then when they came back and did King Kong with Peter Jackson and the Hobbit trilogy, then they were seasoned. But when we were making Lord of the Rings, it was making up stuff, and so was Peter Jackson. He was making up shots, and he was trying new things with special effects and camera angles, and there was a lot of experimentation, and that's thrilling to be part of something that you can tell something new is happening. In answer to your question, could you tell Captain Fantastic, it makes me think, that it was something, or can you tell when it's, as I say, I'm not usually looking at a movie where I go, why did I do that? Even if the movie doesn't turn out great, I've been in movies that have been pretty good with a great idea. It's so hard, and you realize that when you've been in lots of different levels as far as succeeding and making the script as good, the movie as good as the script, when something happens like with this movie, or as I was saying in terms of the casting, the way it was shot, the way the director worked, the way the cameraman shot the scenes, the way, all the work behind the scenes that went into creating the illusion that I don't think I ever question when I watch this movie, that these people are related, and that they've had a long experience living in the woods, and then so you're with them by the time they go on the road, when things change, forever. When these kids, the youngest, are exposed to other kids for the first time in their lives, and towns, and all kinds of stuff. You're completely with them. You believe it's real. These are you know what I mean? And I don't know. It's just it's rare that something gets put together this well, where it's really funny, it's really sad, it's very surprising.
And nobody's perfect.
Nobody.
Seriously not
I play.
perfect.
One of the reasons I like him so much as a character is because, as a challenge, I guess, is because he's so contradictory. He's not what you think at first, and he keeps evolving, and he's humbled, and he he's got a lot of problems too. He's not, and when you meet the grandfather, you think it's going to be, I guess, some ogre, and he's not at all. He's very reasonable and very well played by Frank Langella. And Ann Dowd, wonderful actress, she's amazing. And they don't have much time to establish themselves, but it's indelible what they do. It's same with Steve and Catherine.
So
But it doesn't happen very often. It doesn't happen. And then furthermore, it doesn't happen very often that it gets to a movie theater, and that it stays in movie theaters for a while, and then it's just, like I was saying to Charlie, just like really enjoy it, because it's not the norm.
What's next for you?
I don't know when I'll be doing. You never know what's
Because
happen.
that ties into the question: how much do you like to work? Because I know you have all sorts of other artistic interests, and have you figured out a pace for yourself as an actor who also?
If I was just mostly doing, apart from family stuff, I'm really tied to my family, and I spend lots of time with them, and I try to, But if I had, as far as work interest or art, if it was just movies, I'd probably make a couple a year, if I could find roles that people wanted me to play and I liked them and all that, or more. I like to work, but I do, like you say, I have a publishing house, and I do lots of stuff. And I actually, to be honest, I'm open to the idea. I'm always conscious of the fact that just because that's life, you don't know what's going. People come and go. You may be here tomorrow. You may not be. I always think that whatever, even if it's one scene in a movie, I've always felt this way about acting, certainly, and most things, I suppose. But speaking about acting, that play the role to the best of your abilities, like it's the only one, like it's the last one, and not in a intense, I just mean enjoy this forest, and because tomorrow you're going to go to a different location, and you're not going to get to do that scene again, and that's that.
Which is jarring too, because you do make bonds with these kids. You make bonds with any cast you're with. If you're in New Zealand, you're tight, and then you drift onto them.
But I do play it like it's the last one, and then one of these days it's going to be. And I don't know. I don't know if it's this one. Who knows? At the moment, I've written a couple of stories that I'm trying to get whichever one I can, and either financed. I would like to direct a movie, and one of them
a script of your own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
One of them I wouldn't be in it because there's no role that I would be right for, and the other one I could be in it. I would rather not be. I mean, often when as an actor, your first time movie,
And they're your
you're
original
obligated
stories.
to be. Yeah, you're obligated. Not obligated, but it's in order to get the financing. Sometimes I'd rather not do that, but that's what I'm trying to do right now. Yeah.
We got two questions from the audience, and one of them we've answered because it has to do with your process. And the other one is in a language I can't read, which perhaps you can, unless it's dirty.
It's it looks like it's someone who knows a little Swedish, and it's, can we get married?
Ah, okay.
Or should we get married? And congratulations with the movie.
Okay.
Tack så mycket.
Well, this has been lovely. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming.